Hi there, and today we're going to upgrade the workman's helmet, we're going to upgrade his workman's vest, we're going to build something which I've been dying to build for a long time, which is an iconic Lego accessory, and we're also going to build this upscaled set, which I recently bought from the Lego store. So yes, after hundreds of comments in previous videos on both the helmet and the vest, we're going to give them both a little bit of an upgrade today. I've read everyone's comments, I've taken on lots of suggestions, and I've implemented some of them, and I've completely ignored some other ones. But before we get into all that, as always, I have to give a huge shout out to all my channel members. Whether you're minifig level, big fig level, or mega fig level, your support really helps me out. And if you're interested in getting your name on a brick at the beginning of my videos, you can click on the join button below or the link in the description to see all the benefits you can get from channel membership. But on to the upscaling. First, we're going to make some changes to the workman's vest. Now, I got so many comments that I literally lost count of people saying I should put snot bricks on the front of his torso so the vest would attach to it and be a lot more stable. However, the reason I don't want to do that is that it'll change the torso significantly and also means I won't be able to take the vest on and off like you can on the original minifigure. However, while I was replying to all these comments and telling people that that's what I wanted to do and I wanted to be able to remove the vest, I did realise that it's so fragile that it's very difficult to do that. If we take off his head and hat, and then we try to take off his vest, pretty much it falls apart. So although I really did love the technique of building these panels as they were, so they could slot together at an angle, and then when they were vertical they held together, I'm going to go along with a decision which from the comments is split very much 50-50 down the middle. And that is I'm going to build a second layer of plates behind the vest to hold it all together, however it will make it ever so slightly thicker. Now there was huge debate in the comments whether the actual scale size of this should be 2 plates or 3 plates, and I think in truth it's somewhere in between. So we're going from slightly too thin to slightly too thick, but it's a compromise I'm prepared to live with to make the vest a lot more stable. Now when I did the first video on building this, I got a lot of comments saying, why did I use 2 1x4 tiles instead of 1 1x8 tile along the front top of the vest? And in truth, that was because I didn't have any, but now I do. So we're going to add one of those along here, and that's going to add more stability at the top. And that would have been a really useful piece to have in the last video, as it would stop these pieces sliding out sideways and would have held the vest together a lot better earlier on. So flipping the front of the vest over, we're going to use these 5 plates to add onto the back. And I've made sure I've chosen plates which will cross over the joints in the front layer of plates. So first we're going to join the whole thing together with our strange technique of angling them and then clicking them into place like that. And then we're going to add a 2x4 at the bottom like that, and a 4x6 2x8 along the top, and then 2 more 2x8s down the side. And instantly now, our very, very fragile vest, we can wave it around and it's not going to fall apart at all. So as originally this was a staggered piece, it doesn't matter that the black and yellow are only on the top layer and that the rest of the sides are all yellow. And looking at the original vest, we do get a very similar view. And then on the back of the vest, we're going to do exactly the same. We're going to join these pieces together, although the top is multiple pieces, so it's slightly more fiddly, like that. And then we've got a 2x8 to go across there, attach the next piece. We've got our 4x6, 2x4 at the bottom, and 2x8s down the side. And now I've got 2 very sturdy vest panels. Now with the previous version, as well as the tiles along the front edge, we used these 2x6s to join the front panel with the back panel. But you can see now, because we've made the 2 panels ever so slightly thicker, those 2x6s no longer reach all the way to the back of the bracket. So what we need to do is shuffle it forward ever so slightly. It's about half a plate's width, which does mean the vest will be able to move backwards and forwards ever so slightly, but it does mean we've gained a space along here where we can add another 1x8 tile. So if I remove that 1x4 along the back like that, and replace it with a 1x8, which should click across them all, then we've got our space on the other side for the other 2x6, and now we have a fully complete vest which can be removed taken off and put back on as many times as we like, without it catastrophically falling apart and without the need of snot bricks on the torso. So now we've got a much more stable and sturdy workman's vest. We're going to now upgrade his workman's hat. Now I'm not going to get into any comments about the extra 4 ridges in between the 4 ridges we've already got, and if you want to know the history of those, you can go back and watch the other videos in this series about this hat. But I am going to implement an idea which I got on the very first video, which I did mention in one of the previous videos, which is to turn the ridges round so their stud on the top now is on the side here facing outwards, which allows us to reduce this 3x3 tile down by 2 plate layers so it's in line with the ridges themselves. So first of all, I've removed his hat from his head, and now we've got to remove the entire upper structure, so we're just left with that flat brim at the bottom. So I've put aside the dome pieces and that 3x3 round tile, and we just got to do a little bit of reconfiguring of all the jumper plates on the lower brim of the hat. So first of all, I've got to take out all these 2x2 jumpers, as none of those are going to be used in the redesign. I've also got to remove these 2 jumpers here, so we'll get rid of that one and rid of that one. And on the sides, we've got to move these 2 jumpers in one. So we're going to pull this one off and move it in one, and do the same on the other side. And right now, there's not actually that much holding this together. And I can feel that it's actually very fragile. But then to put a little bit of that stability back, we're going to add some 2x1 plates. And I'm using any colour because red can always be useful, whereas these pink ones I will probably never ever use in my life. And then in the middle, we're going to replace one of those 2x2 jumper plates and put in one of these handy 3x3 cross pieces into the middle like that. And then next we're going to build up those 4 ridge pieces using our new snot technique, and they're all going to sit on the corners of that cross piece in the middle. And the supports those ridge pieces are using these 5 pieces, and they're all 1x1s. We've got a bracket, a brick, a plate, another bracket and another brick. So first of all, put our 1x1 on top of the bracket, and then the plate on top, and then the next bracket, so you can see those tiles all line up, and then another brick on top. And what we're going to need is 4 of those. And then we have all 4 of those, which is going to go onto that cross plate. But what I didn't mention earlier is that this suggestion came from Joseph Marinier, who sent me a great picture of his mock-up using some lovely printed pieces of those domes. And then lastly, on each one of those columns, one of our curved bricks goes. And now obviously that's now sitting on its side with the stud pointing outwards. However, if we attach it here, it's not going to have any support underneath it. So what we need to do is add some tiles here to give it a little bit of support where the cross plate isn't, where it sticks out on each of the sides. So on the sides, we've got those 2 jumper plates sitting there waiting for it, so they can sit there. On the front, we've got a single jumper. We can't replace this, as this 2x4 oval tile is very crucial in holding the brim together, as you'll know from earlier videos if you've been watching. But the one can sit on there. Then at the back, we just need a couple of jumper plates like that, and our last 1x3 tile can sit there. And now all of those curved bricks are going to be nicely supported. And now all 4 of the column pieces have got their curved brick attached to them, so we can now attach those. One there, one at the back, one at the front, and like that, and then on the other side. And that's our ridges in place, ready for the dome pieces to go in between. Now, because of their geometry, because those curved bricks are now on their backs, they're taller than they were before. And although the quarter dome pieces do have a quarter curved plate underneath, we do need to raise them up a little bit more, so we're going to add another one on the bottom of each dome piece. And now that they're all a little bit higher, when you put them in between those curved bricks, the studs on top of them all end up at the same height, so we've got this flat layer for the 3x3 round tile. And unlike before, when that gets put in place, it's not higher than the ridges on the side, it's absolutely and beautifully level with them, just as the original hat was. So we can easily see the benefits of this build. That circle at the top of the hat, which was level with the ridges on the original, is now also level with our ridges. Before it was 1 or 2 plates higher, and also the ridges merged with the domes pieces at the top, so they were the same height as them. This way the ridges stand out all the way up to the top, so they're still higher than the dome when they reach to the top with that tile. And once we've put it back on top of the upscaled minifig's head, we can definitely see the benefits. I think having these studs pointing outwards is a small price to pay to have such a better version of the ridges on the top with that tile beautifully indented and sitting level with them. So with our 2 upgrades done, our view here of our workman doesn't look any different from our original view we had at the beginning of the video. However, his workman's hat does look far superior, and also I'm really pleased that the vest can now come on and off without falling apart. So continuing with our upscaling, however not apart from this set. For a while now I've wanted to make a version of the classic 1x2 envelope tile, and this week I managed to have some time to work on it, and I threw a design together, and fortunately I had all the pieces I needed to make it, as there's nothing specialist in it. So as a little extra, I thought I'd add that into this week's video. Now, following our normal 6x upscale rules, we know a 1x2 tile is going to end up being 12x6, and because it's 1 plate thick, it's going to be 6 plates thick, which is 2 bricks. So first of all, we're going to build the top line of the address and the stamp. And for that, we're going to start with a 1x8 tile, and we're going to add a 1x4 blue plate, and next door to it, our 1x4 white plate. Then underneath that, a 1x8 plate. And then for the stamp next door, we've got a 1x2 brick, and we're adding 2 1x2 red plates to it, and then a 1x2 white plate, and a 1x2 tile. And those 2 pieces are going to sit together like that. So to complete the space underneath the stamp on the right hand side, we're going to get a 1x2 plate and a 1x2 tile. Click those together and they will sit just for now underneath there, but they will get all squashed together right at the end. And then we're going to complete the address on the other side. I'm going to start with a 1x8 tile, and then add a 1x6 blue plate, and then fill in the gap with white. Then we need 2 rows of white underneath that, a 1x8, and then we're going to do a 1x6, and just to save on parts, a brick. And then that last line of the address is 5 studs long, so we've got a 1x3, a 1x2, and fill in the gap again with white, and finish it off with a white plate underneath. And again, those 2 smooth tiles will sit together just as they are for now, but they'll all get squashed together in a minute. Now all of this has obviously been built with studs on the side, but the frame it's going to sit in is going to have studs pointing the right way up, and to achieve that all this is going to be attached to these brackets. So we're going to need to have lots of these around the edges. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 on that piece up there, and then 1 on the stamp, 1 on the part below the stamp, and then 4 more on the second part of the address, like that. And then that can all now get built into a little frame. So the first thing to do is join all the parts on the top together with this 1x10 brick, like that. So there's our top half, and then we're going to do the same for the bottom half. Get our 1x10 and join them all together, and now you can hopefully see how those will just get squashed together like that. We're going to add another plate layer underneath, so we've got a 1x8 here sticking out by 1 stud, and then a 1x4 the other end. I'm going to do the same on the other half, like that. I'm going to turn the whole thing over and join it together at the ends. And for that I've got a 1x4 plate, and I'm going to stick a 1x6 on top, then a 1x6 brick, and then if we stand these up, that'll sit on the end like that and hold it together. Then I've got the same build for the other end, and we have nearly finished. So the last thing to do is tile the edges off, and I've chosen tiles that will cross over the joints of the bricks below, which will give it a little bit of more extra stability. So we've got 2 1x6s, a 1x4 on the end, again another 2 1x6s down this side, and a 1x4 on the other end, and there we have our little upscaled envelope. And if we do our little perspective trick, you'll see that on the blue lines on the left hand side, I've actually built them the wrong way round, so we just need to fix that. So I've detached the dress parts, and I just need to take the top part and flip it over and put it on the bottom, and take the bottom part and flip it over and put it on the top, and then hopefully that will look more correct. So now with our original in the foreground and our upscaled version in the background, when we remove one, you can see how similar they look. Now I know this has got nothing to do with the mini loader set, however this was one of my favourite pieces when I was a kid. It used to come with lots and lots of Lego town people, and since getting into upscaling it's something I've always wanted to do. I'm pleased that I managed to keep it hollow underneath like original tiles are, however we do have these sets of studs sticking outwards, and obviously you can see the stamp and the address from behind. I think what I might do is work out somewhere to attach to these brackets and make a flush panel of white underneath here, so hopefully we could remove those studs and hide these at a later date. So now our workman looks extremely happy because someone loves him enough to send him a letter. So as we're nearly into August, a lot of my viewers are probably going to be going on holiday, and for my American viewers, don't confuse that with Christmas time. In the UK that just means going on vacation. But recently in my local Lego store I found this set, which just happens to be built in the same 1:6 scale as upscaled minifigures. So as the weather is so nice here in the UK, I thought our workman probably deserved to go on holiday. So let's build his suitcase and the parts to go inside it. So this set has 3 numbered bags, an instruction booklet, 2 plates, and a sticker sheet. And here we have the finished article. And what I didn't say before is that this is set 40817 and it's got 184 pieces and it's aptly called Yellow Travel Suitcase. In the UK it costs £13 and in the US it costs $15, and I think it is really good value for money. It's got some great features. It's even got wheels so you can wheel it along. Our minifigure can extend the handle so it makes it easier for him to pull along. On the side here it's already had its luggage label attached to it, and it's got BLL, which I presume is the airport code for Billund in Denmark. So I imagine our upscaled minifigure is going on holiday to the Lego house. As well as the luggage label sticker, there's also a Lego logo sticker on the front. That would have been really nice if that was a printed piece. I'm sure they could have reused that in many other sets. The whole suitcase hinge is open on one side and you can see all the items our minifigure's taking away with him. First of all, we've got a little round sandwich. He really should have put that in a lunchbox or wrapped it up in some cling film. I would have liked also to see the return of that domed piece with sort of sesame seeds printed on it. We used to have it for burgers and various things. That would have been a useful piece to have in this set. But he's got a snack for his journey at least. Next, he's a bit of an old school minifigure. He doesn't have a smartphone yet, but he does have a really classic camera. So he's going to take lots of snaps on his holiday of the Lego house. It's good to see that oral hygiene is a priority for our minifigures, and he's got his little red toothbrush he's taken with him, although there doesn't seem to be any toothpaste. And then the last two items, probably most important, he's got his passport, which is a really nice printed piece on this 2x3 dark red tile. And then he's got his plane ticket, which is this 2x4 white tile, but that is a sticker and not a printed piece. Now he's obviously only going away for a few days, as this is clearly the size of cabin luggage, not something you check in and put in the hold. But he's got everything he needs for a few days away at the Lego house in Denmark. Although he should probably take off his workman's vest and hat before he goes. But if we add all three items together, you can see where upscaling really does have its problems. We've got a little brick-built suitcase, which is about waist height, so it's probably in scale to a minifigure. However, our envelope is taller than the suitcase is. But in minifig scale, no one ever actually notices that an envelope does come up to the waist of a minifigure. And in truth, it is actually a giant envelope. So as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you'd like to get your name on a brick at the beginning of my videos, have a look at channel membership by clicking the join button below or the link in the description. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out. But of course, please subscribe for more LEGO videos.